You're listening to a purpose-driven marriage podcast, and this 3-part series is proudly sponsored by the Ultimate Communication Course for Couples, a transformational program that will help you and your spouse go from feeling frustrated, disconnected, and misunderstood to experiencing increased trust, greater intimacy, deeper connection, and an aligned purpose in your marriage. Check out the show notes below for more information. And now let's continue on to the series, Keeping the Romance Alive Through the Parenting Years. Hello, and welcome to a purpose-driven marriage podcast. We are Dwayne Nadine Stewart, and we love any and all things marriage. You've tuned into the right place if you're looking for actionable, practical tips to help you overcome real-life obstacles common to real relationships. We're here to help you strive for a marriage as God has designed it and not as the world has defined it. Because why settle for a good marriage when you can have a great one?
So Nadine, I'm really excited to get this thing started. It's a 3-part series talking about romance in the parenting years.
Yep, keeping it alive.
Pretty exciting, right? I mean, that's what today's episode is about. And really, we're going to start through the baby or the baby years, right?
Yep, baby to toddler.
Yeah, baby to toddler, and we'll progress on throughout. But I think we have some experience in this, don't we?
Oh, just a little bit. Yeah.
We got 6 kids, as you guys know, ages 14 to 22 years old. And we've experienced the joys. We've experienced some challenges. We've kind of been through all that from the little ones all the way up to high school and college. And just a disclaimer, we are still going through that last stage, not even the last stage, but it's still the high school years and trying to navigate through that part of it. And still learning.
Adulthood.
Still learning, yeah. Adulthood and all those things. And so we're still a work in progress too, but we definitely have gone through the baby years and the toddler years and the middle school years. And we love to kind of share some of our experience and hopefully give you some tools, some tips, and some encouragement on how to continue to have that intimacy even through those years.
It is possible. It's absolutely possible.
Totally is.
And so I'm not saying it's easy, right? And with each stage, there are different challenges.
Yeah.
But there's also different opportunities for, really connecting and cultivating the relationship. So just getting started with the 0 to toddler years.
Right.
This is actually a topic that I have found many of the women that I have spoken to through the years in the speaking engagements that I'm invited to speak at.
Mm-hmm.
This is the age group, the age range that many of them can relate to the most. We're talking like, MOPS, mothers of preschooler age years. And, it's tough.
It is.
It's tough. And they have shared with me, many of the challenges that we've experienced. And in fact, Dr. John Gottman says in his studies that 67% of couples see their marital satisfaction plummet for up to 3 years after having a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's just because it's so hard, right?
Oh yeah.
It's difficult. It's a new experience. It's just a challenge, right? With that new baby that comes in, it's a disruption to your normal way of living, right? You were a couple by yourselves, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And now it's the two of you together trying to now bring up this helpless bundle of joy. Like that baby can't do anything by itself. You're like, you can't eat, you can't sleep, you have to, poop. I got to change a diaper. There's so many different things that goes on. And now you have to figure out, how do we handle this as a couple? How do we bring this baby up? There's no manual, none of those things, nothing that tells us how do we keep the same type of romantic relationship that we had before. Like, how do we do all that?
Or even figure out what our new normal is.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, honey, because in my coaching practice, I go through an exercise with every couple in the beginning where they kind of take me back to where the two of them began. And then they take me through their relationship all the way up until now. And many times when I ask them, when did the problem start? Many of them cite that it is right after they had their first child.
Right.
Right after they had their first child.
Not unusual.
Exactly. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you are like just in the midst of this, just know that you're not alone.
There's hope.
Right? There's hope. There is.
We're smiling.
Exactly. We're on the other side of this, and we're still smiling, and things are good, and there's a way to keep the romance alive.
Yeah.
Right. In the relationship. So
how do we do it?
Yeah. So there are actually 3 things that we recommend to help you maintain the romance in your marriage during the baby to toddler years. Right. And the very first one is a mindset shift.
Right.
Right. And I think that you'll find that this is really critical for pretty much any situation you find yourself in. Right. It's not about what's happening to you, but it's in how you receive, the circumstances, right, that you find yourself in. So when you have a baby or sometimes during the challenging toddler years, right? That's why they come up with the terrible twos. I'm trying to decide who does what, who gets to wake up in the middle of the night with the baby, who gets the extra 5 minutes of sleep,
right?
Right. It's really, easy.
Who gets to eat first?
Yeah, who gets,
and who holds the baby? And then who gets to eat second? And oh my goodness, there was so many different things.
About that.
You remember that?
I forgot we had to eat in shifts. Yeah. So, the struggle is real, but it's very easy to begin keeping score in this season.
Right.
Right. Like who's doing more?
Yeah. And to be honest, it is difficult. And as the man, I think we have to step up, right? Man, we got to step up in this situation because we know that the wives and the moms, right, are they're taking the majority of the responsibility. You are the only one that's got the milk, right? That for breastfeeding, you're usually the one that's able to comfort the child and those types of things. And so even in the middle of the night, if I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this baby doesn't stop crying. So what do I do? I'm like, hey, babe, can you handle this? So we have to step up in other ways. How about the housekeeping, making sure that the house is taken care of, maybe going shopping, maybe, thinking about all the other things, being intentional, which is another piece that we'll talk about soon, about, providing for you and for the family in a way that's going to kind of lessen the load, lessen the burden.
But the mindset shift, I think that you're talking about for men is in recognizing that's necessary, right? That this is a season. This isn't a forever thing, but it's a great place to start practicing for what's to come.
Yep.
Right. Because this is the mindset shift isn't, just today. Right. It's a mindset shift that yes, it's for a season, but it's for a season that encompasses your parenting years, that's which, for some people could be well into, mid-20s for their children. And so it's really important that the mindset shift for husbands is in recognizing that, look, your wife may have given birth, or maybe it's an adoption, right? Like something that we know a whole lot about. Maybe it's something like that, but the wife oftentimes has to carry a big bulk of the weight. And what happens is if the husband's not stepping up, it can become a you versus me mentality, right? And to keep the romance alive, you'll have to be intentional with making sure you view everything about your situation from a we perspective and not a me or you perspective.
Yeah. So it's really a servant's attitude, right?
Exactly.
That's really what I think the mentality or the mindset is. It's like, okay, how can I serve my wife? How can I serve my family in a way that will bring them joy, will bring them relief, will help them to feel like, okay, we're in this together. He really cares about me, about us, and building up our family in the way that we need to do it, and really stepping up and filling in the gap. Right. I think that's an important piece to doing this.
Yeah. And remembering that you guys are a team. Right. You guys were together. I think you mentioned this earlier. You were here before the kids showed up. So bringing back the whole mentality of it's the two of you against the world.
That's right.
Right. So the challenges that parenting the baby to toddler years brings should not cause a situation where it becomes, me against you.
That's right.
Right. But it's us tackling the situation.
Yeah.
Us working together to overcome and thrive in that situation. Right. Yeah. So
there was definitely a phrase or something that we used to say as a team, all we got is us.
Yes.
Right. It's us against the world. And that's more of a, a competitive thought or mind frame, but kind of is, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that it's us in the family that takes care of each other. If we can lean on anybody, it's gonna be you. You'll lean on me, I'll lean on you, and we'll tackle this together.
Yeah, and the reason why that's so important, why that mindset shift is important, is because in order to maintain the romance, right?
Mhm.
Like as a woman, because I can only come from that perspective. As a woman, it's going to be really hard for me, especially when I'm, dealing with postpartum,
Mhm.
postpartum body, postpartum psychological state, right? Like postpartum everything. It's
Yeah.
going to be really, really hard for me to even consider
Right.
the thought of being intimate
Mhm.
when I'm feeling like we're adversarial,
Yeah.
right? Like you're
That's
not
when you get.
helping me. It's me and this baby. And
Mhm.
then you just
Right.
doing your own thing in the corner over there playing video games or whatever, right?
That wasn't me.
No,
That
that
wasn't
wasn't
me.
you. That wasn't
I
you.
understand that. But so basically what you're saying is, you do not want to get to a point where you're feeling resentful, right? Where
Exactly.
you're feeling like, okay, my expectation of you is to do this and you're not doing it. So that is not being met. And so now you're not feeling you're not having those feelings towards me, right? And what we're trying to do, I think the whole point is to replace those thoughts with appreciation, with
Yes.
love, with admiration, and really thinking about our spouse in that positive way. Because the positive way is now at least one step closer to being that feeling that, oh, I'm feeling this way about you.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit of love for you. I'm like, oh, let's cut a little bit. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and that kind of builds the intimacy part.
Yeah. Well, you're maintaining your friendship,
Right.
right? Which then can lead to more intimate moments.
Yeah.
And so the next thing, right? The next thing that we recommend for helping you survive during the baby to toddler parenting years or keep that romance alive is intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but you'll find that being intentional is going to be your secret weapon to making sure the romance never dies.
Yeah.
Right. No matter the season of life you may be in or how many kids you may have, intentionality, you will hear that from us over and over again. Future episodes, you will see that on our social media because intentionality is the key.
It sure is.
It is the key.
Especially when life starts happening, right? I mean, in the very beginning, brand new baby, we're both home, we're both sharing the same experiences, but at some point in time, somebody's got to go to work. And maybe, you, especially in the beginning, will be at home taking care of the baby for a while. And so I come home and it's like, all right, maybe as I'm tired and we want to rest, but I think it's really important to kind of stay caught up.
Oh yeah.
Right. In your world. Hey, babe, how'd it go today? How was the baby? How are you feeling? Right. What's going on with you? So that I am giving you an opportunity to kind of speak, to kind of explain, hey, this is what I've been dealing with, and here's how I'm feeling. Here's what I might need from you. Those types of things, and just giving you an avenue for you to just express your feelings.
Well, because babe, if we don't do that, like if we're not intentional about spending even like just 15 minutes a day, asking each other how things are going, how you're feeling and all that, it is very easy to neglect that.
Yeah.
It is very easy. And I can tell you, I work with couples that have been married for decades, for many years, and they have gotten to a point where they stopped doing that. They just got busy. It became about the kids.
Life happens, right?
Yeah, to the point where it doesn't even feel natural. Anymore. It doesn't even feel natural when I give them this assignment of having that conversation with their spouse. They're like, really? What are we going to talk about? Well, you're married to each other. I mean, I'm sure you can come up with something. Right.
And I think in order to make sure that we keep that fresh and keep that in the front of mind, I think you really have to be intentional about date nights, right? And getting away. Do you remember that time when I can't remember if it was my mom or your mom, somebody was
your
here.
mom.
And I booked the trip. I don't know where this came from. It had to be Lord. Thank you, Lord, for putting this on my mind. But we just booked a trip, not a trip, but it was an outing just to go to this hotel. It was a resort, probably about 20, 30 miles away from the house. And I said, "Hey, babe, go get dressed. Mom's
No,
here."
actually, you're not telling the story right, because you pretty much kidnapped me.
Yeah, I did.
So
I did.
you have to understand, I'm not much different from most women, right? When I've just given birth, like, I mean, the fact that I even allow anyone else to hold our
Mm-hmm.
babies, that is,
Okay. So
that's progress
so
right
we're
there.
we're so we're basically we're talking about in that most people go through is like I'm not letting anybody take care of my kid. I'm not ready to leave the house
I
yet and have
wasn't
somebody
ready.
take care of my kid
I
until
think she must have been a month old.
yeah, she wasn't
I
very
mean,
old.
she was a month old. I mean, there was no way I was going anywhere overnight without her, because she was nursing. And
Yep.
I just, in my mind, I couldn't fathom the idea.
And mind you, this is our second
This
kid.
was our second,
This is our second kid.
She was born
Mm-hmm.
in 2003.
Yep.
So this was right around 2004.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, because she was born in December. So this
January,
was like
February,
in
something like that.
January, February of
Yeah.
2004.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dwayne pretty much kidnapped me.
Yeah.
And so I don't even think I got to pack. I
Yep.
think he tricked me into getting into the car.
Mm-hmm.
My bag was already packed.
We packed.
His mom had shown up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get to see his mom. All
Right.
I know is that he set it all up, and
Let's
he
go.
drove me someplace. And this whole time I was in a panic.
Right.
I thought my husband had
It's
lost his
okay.
mind.
It's okay.
I didn't know if I had to call for help.
Mhm.
I had no idea. But
The baby's
essentially
fine.
what he did was he forced time together,
Mhm.
and he took care of all the details. He made sure that his mom, who was a nurse,
Yeah.
and so she was very capable of taking care of our baby. I had
Totally.
pumped enough milk that she would be fine through the night, and so it was great. So it ended up being a really, really good experience.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it all was that there was intentionality behind it.
Yep. It was intentionality, and I think I get some brownie points for that one. That was good. I think it's
That
a long
was
time
really
ago,
good.
but we've had other experiences since then. But yeah, you just got to be intentional. Think outside the box. Try to figure out a way to provide those things that maybe your wife doesn't even know that she needs. I don't think you knew you needed that at that
No, I
moment,
had
but
no idea.
once we were there, you're like, yeah,
Oh,
I needed
babe,
that for
but
sure.
let me tell you though, he scheduled a
Mm.
couples massage.
Yeah.
I had no idea how badly I needed that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so that was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I love the intentionality in that. And then the other thing is the third point, right?
Mhm.
The third recommendation that we have for helping keep the romance alive in the relationship is compassion.
Yeah.
So maintaining compassion, because for women especially, right? Like we're moms. Our natural mothering instincts, it can be really hard to decide between trying to meet the needs of our husband
Mhm.
when we feel like the needs of our baby, who's gosh, so helpless and 100% depend on us. I mean, it seems like the obvious priority.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've had a lot of ladies tell me that, oh gosh, like I wish my husband would stop being so needy right now, because I've got an actual needy human here who
we
relies
we
on
get a
me for
little jealous.
everything.
We get a little jealous, I think, sometimes too, right? I mean, it's like, you used to be staring at me like you stared at that kid. And I love the baby, I know, but what about me? So we do get a little jealous sometimes, but I think that the important piece is to provide these opportunities for us to be intimate without pressure, right? And without the I guess the expectation of sex all the time, right? Maybe we can cuddle, maybe we can just stare at talk or do whatever we do together without saying, okay, well, since we got 5 minutes, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. I think it doesn't have to be like that all the time, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just providing that opportunity for us to just get away and not be thinking so much about all the other responsibilities that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. But the compassion too, honey, I think it goes both ways, right? So for us, right, the compassion that we would love it if our husbands could recognize this is the fact that we're not the same
Mhm.
after having a baby, right? I'm not sure if we will ever be the same.
Nope.
But at least immediately after giving birth, I mean, we have many of us experience postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Or, some maybe a milder version of it, called the baby blues. There's the physical changes and limitations with our bodies. We can't even be intimate. We can't have sex for 6 weeks after a vaginal birth, and up to 8 weeks with a C-section. And I had both. Right. And so the compassion of recognizing that we're dealing with things outside of even just caring for this brand new baby, we're also dealing with our mental state. We're dealing with our physical state where, we feel different. May not look very beautiful.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Nadine, is as husbands, and I know all the guys out there can relate, is my wife is even more beautiful now than she was before she had that baby. And it is just a gorgeous, most spectacular event that's ever happened in our entire life. And you were the one that helped us provide that. And yes, things do change, right? Bodies change and those types of things. But as men, as a husband, that's really not a care for me. You're still the same person, inside and out. And so I think that you're beautiful. And one of the things that to make sure to really show your wife is that she is beautiful. Even though she's milking, and even though she probably doesn't feel great, she got spit up on her clothes, and her hair is not done up, and those types of things. You come home and you're like, hey, you're gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a mom doing all these things, it's just something that you dream of.
Yeah. But I think communicating that to one spouse, right, for the husbands to make sure that they are showing compassion, recognizing that their wife needs to hear that even more now than ever. But also on the flip side, right, from the wife's perspective, I think it's really important for us to recognize that our husbands are going through things too. Right. And I think this doesn't really get talked about very often, but as you kind of touched on it earlier, like for guys, baby or not, you still want to be our number one.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's always been the two of us until the baby came along, and you never signed up to be replaced. And I used to
did sign up, but we didn't really realize what we were
that you would be replaced.
For.
I used to tease that my husband had never been jealous of any other man until
my son.
Until our son came along.
We won't get into babies in the bed right now, but
yeah, exactly. And so I think from a woman's perspective, it's really important for us to be sensitive to that and recognize that our husbands do have needs. And a lot of it is just really the desire to continue to connect with us.
Yeah.
And so one of the best ways that we can help our romance to stay alive is in finding time to get the babies out of our beds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was a really hard one for me. Right. I wanted, like, I'm very much into attachment parenting. And so I really wanted the babies to stay with us. But then I realized that when we finally got them into their own bassinets and it was still in the same room, not only did they sleep better at night and they were safer.
So did you.
Yep. I slept better. And it also made room in the bed for us to be able to be intimate in those nights when it was possible.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, yes, it doesn't have to be every night. We know how this goes. Everybody's tired and there's a lot going on in the household, but just with the opportunity to, have intimacy without sex, right?
Yeah.
Have intimacy with sex. It just kind of,
it's really just connecting
with the child in the bed. It just creates more of a layer. It's definitely an obstacle. It's an obstacle, right?
A little bundle of joy, laying there between
Love
us.
that baby.
So to summarize, in order to keep the romance alive, like during the baby toddler years, we recommend, really just a change in mindset, being intentional, and demonstrating that compassion, that sensitivity for one another. So, and that's it. for today's episode. And it's the first of our 3-part series on keeping the romance alive through each stage of parenting years. So tune in next week when we talk about the grade school years.
Grade school.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you please consider sharing it with someone else who can benefit? We would really appreciate that. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave us a review. We hope this episode has provided you encouragement and tools to have a purpose-driven marriage. Have a great day. Time.